The New York Post, Dylan Postal, says Hugh Grant's Wonka role hurts actors of my stature. So this is a video about the new Snow White movie that's going to be coming out, the live-action Snow White movie, a movie that nobody asked for, nobody wants, and nobody needs. Now, I know I normally stay away from this really mainstream stuff that's been just hammered by everybody, because what am I going to say on the subject matter that hasn't already been said? But we do have the image here that I'm sure you have all seen. We have Little Red Riding Hood and her merry men. Oh, wait. That's not what this is, of course. This is Snow White and the 7 homeless gypsies that live in Santa Monica. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, not saying that's not a pejorative. That's just what I see. Yeah, this looks like she was born in the wagon of a traveling show. You know, that song by Cher from the 60s, I think. There's only one dwarf out of these 7 individuals. There were supposed to be 7 dwarfs. There's only one. These people are clearly of alternative lifestyles. Looks like maybe non-binary, transgender, queer, any of these different things, LGBTQ, right? We have the token blacks. It looks like there's 3 token blacks. I don't know why it needs to be this way. In fact, one of these people is a woman. I mean, I guess it doesn't say in the title that the 7 dwarves have to be all male, but and the black characters, the woke are going to scream at me, "You're an idiot! You don't know there was black people in the Middle Ages in Germany." And yeah, I know there was like maybe 2 of them, right? So it was so very uncommon to have black people in Europe that why are there's a Hispanic person, there's the Hispanic Snow White who had skin as white as snow and hair as black as coal. Well, now she's Snow Brown. And I don't see any Hispanic people amongst the dwarves. I don't see any Asian people amongst the dwarves. But it's all inclusive because we have 1 Hispanic person and we have 3 black people. I don't get it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you about this stuff. It doesn't make any sense to me. So before we dive in, I do want to thank everybody for stopping by. I do appreciate you supporting my channel. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed because YouTube does unsubscribe people every single day. Now let's dive into Dylan Postal and watch this little video that he has here. This is a clip from an interview he did with Piers Morgan. Let me take a look at it.
It's not a progression at all to me. My issue with it is exactly what you said. There are actors, dwarf actors, that live, that dream to be in a major motion picture such as this Disney remake. And now, because Peter Dinklage said what he said last year, now it's taken away. And it's taken away because of quote unquote progression and all that. And it's not right.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why Peter Dinklage would say what he said unless his career got rocket boosters attached to it when he was in Game of Thrones. And then he was in a Marvel movie too. So he took off, right? And maybe he said that because he doesn't want the competition. Or maybe he was just saying something that didn't make any sense. It made sense only in the minds of the woke.
These are roles made for actors my stature. Roles that aren't ever really given. I can't go out for the Harrison Ford or the George Clooney roles because that's not for me. These dwarf roles are for people of my stature.
Right.
And now it's taken away. I don't feel that's right. And not only that, but now think about the additional stunt actors or body doubles or that. Now you're talking multiple actors of my...
Yeah, he has a good point there that, you know, he's not what we look for in a leading man. And I think that maybe we should try to make more movies that have dwarves in them, that have little people in them, have midgets in them. Not to pander to people who have this defect, but because that might make more interesting movies. But Hollywood's all about playing it safe. They want to make stuff like you're making, you know, right here it says the Wonka movie right below the video. They're making another Wonka movie, well, because they think they can sell tickets for the Wonka movie. No, I want to see like stories like Willow. Obviously, the new show was terrible, but the Willow movie, it took a big chance and it put a lot of shorter people in the movie, right? They had a whole village of the Elflins, right?
Stature that don't get these major roles. And why? What's the reasoning? Because we're supposed to be progressive and we're supposed to just not view them as that.
Well, you know the
these
irony.
Were heroes. All of these dwarves, all of these dwarves took care of Snow White.
Right.
They all had characteristics, separate characteristics. They weren't these cave-dwelling monsters that that people speak of.
It's interesting that he should say that, cave-dwelling monsters. The original myth of the dwarf was it was a spirit or a sprite, a malevolent spirit or sprite, that lived underground and looked like an old man with a beard, which is that kind of appearance has been kept up with the dwarf myth, but now they're like fully fleshed out living race of beings. It's pretty interesting.
They all had 7 different characteristics for 7 different actors that from my community, and I don't feel it's right that got taken away from us.
And utterly agree with you.
So he agrees. The guy on the right that you saw there at the end, he does not agree. He's all like, "Oh, it's so progressive of us to make the dwarves human-sized, adult human-sized. You know, it's great." Actor and wrestler Dylan Postal slammed the upcoming Wonka movie for casting Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa rather than an actor with the dwarfism. Director Paul King used computer-generated imagery to get the visual effects of Grant's Oompa Loompa just right. But Postal 37 argues CGI doesn't need to be used at all. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that Willie's Wonka factory thing, the Charlie and Chocolate Factory, is based on a book. And I don't know how the Oompa Loompas were described in the book. So are they smaller than we could actually have an actor be? So we would have to CGI no matter who they put in the role. I don't know. Speaking on Piers Morgan Uncensored, he said, "So now we're not only using CGI and spending extra money and funding for these movies when we could just cast dwarves in that role. Now you're taking at least one role away or multiple roles away for Oompa Loompa characters," Postal continued. That's what they were in the past. He emphasized how those in the dwarf community aren't granted as many opportunities as they should be. These roles in Hollywood in general, are very hard for people of my community to get, besides the elf and the leprechaun, Postal said. So why are they being taken from my community? Yeah, it's unfair. Life is unfair. It's something that he's pointing out. They're using CGI to make this Oompa Loompa, and you know what? Nobody said anything about it when we used CGI to make Elijah Wood shorter for his role as Hobbit in the Lord of the Rings movies. None of those movies were called out for using CGI instead of using dwarves, real-life dwarves. So, but, you know, a halfling is not a dwarf. So there's some characteristic differences there. So maybe that's why, but also, you know, times were different then.
And, you know, they did it with the dwarf characters, too, in those movies.
Dylan Postal emphasized how those in the dwarf community aren't granted as many opportunities as they should be. Why are these roles being taken from my community? Yeah. Going back to the book and reading all those poems and hearing the Oompa Loompas voice as a very sort of cynical, sarcastic, cruel, funny, but wicked voice, I went on. That's sort of a bit like Hugh King told the Empire magazine. It was a real light bulb moment. You go, Hugh Grant's an Oompa Loompa? Yes, please, Merry Christmas with a bow on it. Just what we need. Hugh Grant is an Oompa Loompa. There he is. Look at it. Oh, there he is. Look at he's. Now, if this is the normal size of an Oompa Loompa in the book, this is going to be smaller than nearly every human being on the planet. Maybe as small as like the smallest humans ever. Adult humans. Because this is really small. It's like 18 inches. Maybe less than 18 inches. But it looks like it's, you know, somewhere between 12 and 18 inches, like 15 inches or something. You're getting down to like record-setting levels of dwarfism at that point. So you're going to have to use CGI on somebody. Back to the article. He looks terrific, but because it's CG, it looks terrible until it looks good. And then you go, perfect. It's a miracle. My students accuse me of being a wizard. I teach computer animation. You know this. Hollywood is trying to take away a lot of these roles, but CG is still going strong. Postal also expressed his disappointment in the lack of dwarves in the Snow White remake, a story that traditionally included 7 dwarves named Doc, Sleepy, Grumpy, Dopey, Happy, Bashful, and Sneezy. That's probably what people are complaining about, is that they thought this was stereotyping, these names, stereotyping the dwarf characters. And it's not really. This is just the way that the story was written. And it's not a big deal. None of these characteristics were meant to be negative except for Grumpy. And he had like an arc, as I recall. He kind of becomes less grumpy or he gets more accepted somehow because of people see his grumpiness as an asset or something like that. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen Snow White, which is a very important movie for somebody in my position because it was the first feature-length animated film ever. So launching this animated film, the animated film industry, which I have been involved in. So director Paul King used CGI to get the visual effects of Hugh Grant's Oompa Loompa just right. There's a Postl in his suit. Looks pretty good. Dylan Postal slammed the upcoming Wonka movie for casting Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa rather than an actual dwarf. However, the live-action version of the classic Disney film won't feature 7 dwarves, but rather 6 non-dwarves and 1 dwarf. These are roles made for actors of my stature. I can't go for the Harrison Ford or the George Clooney roles Postl shared with Post columnist Piers Morgan. I don't feel that's right. That it got taken away from us. Yeah, it did. It got taken away from you. That's the end of the article. Yeah, there's a lot of changes going on in Hollywood right now. A lot of things are up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. People are demanding that there are restrictions on AI so that actors can retain their roles, so that writers can retain their roles. You know, Hollywood has gone through a lot of changes, and maybe it's time that it crumbled to the ground. That could very well affect me being peripherally involved. I mean, I teach how to make animated movies, how to make animated film. But my school focuses primarily on video games, at least for the parts that I teach. So, you know, I might be safe because I'm teaching you how to make video games, which, if you didn't know, use animation. And that's why I got into it. Anyways, I want to make better video games. Who knew that that there would be a lot of companies out there that beat me to the punch before I ever got involved with any of that. But thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate anybody who made it this far into this. Now, I want to share with you a cat that is apparently also a genius.